This is Channel 13.
Living side by side, dreaming two by two. You are the reason that we do what we do for you. Yeah, for you. We do it for you on WIBW.
Welcome into our WIBW Digital News Center on this Throwback Thursday as we dive into the Video Vault presented by Ace Plumbing, Heating and Air and Appliance. A little bit late today as you were watching the live update from our partners at Local News Live, updating from Arizona the disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie, and they continue to outline the evidence in that search. Today in the Video Vault, we're kind of going to talk about today and last week, so modern times, because that is what got our memory going for something that happened in the Video Vault that you, Doug, he's doing all the Video Vault stuff, chief photographer here at WIBW. Something that you covered last week had you thinking about something that you saw in the Video Vault during your work.
Yeah, this is the newest truck, an aerial truck that the fire department got, and so they said, you can come on out, take a few pictures of it.
And it is pretty cool. I mean, a new vehicle. We like our shiny new cars, so the fire department, the firefighters feel the same way.
And they explained, a lot about the vehicles. Just they're hard to make. I mean, look how gigantic they are, 72,000
They are
pounds
ginormous.
or whatever. So it's a slow process. So they have to plan so far in advance to to get them made and get them ordered.
Well, and two, speaking of our partners at L&L and Investigate TV Plus, which you see every afternoon here on WIBW, the trucks, they said with all the grant money that came out during the pandemic, there was kind of a bit of a rush on orders that agencies were using to get new equipment and get their things updated. And so there is this wait across the nation for fire trucks to arrive. So they were waiting. They said, yeah, almost 4 years ago they ordered it.
And sometimes a truck, they said, could last 15, 17 years, but they wear out and can't take a chance. Oh, here's the fun part.
Should I tell you the full disclosure on these shots? Doug does not like heights.
No.
Not at all.
When they offered, you see the tower there, our good friend Cameron McCrory, who was an intern this summer, she rappelled down it during Camp Courage. I would not.
You said, go for it.
So
I'd
when
love
they
to watch
said,
you.
come on, this was 100 foot, and I'm going to add in the wind. It was windy
a windy
up there.
day, yes it was.
But I had full faith. It's a brand new truck, great operator, so I knew I was going to be okay, but I didn't spend too much time up there.
No, you did not.
I used the my fingers are cold, let's go down excuse to get back on the ground.
So that's the arrival of a new fire truck in 2026, which, by the way, I'm told that if you go to the fire station open house is at Fire Station 5 this weekend.
I believe so.
And when you go on Saturday, you'll be able to see the new truck for yourself if you would like.
And they
little
do
breaking news there. I found
the
out
little
today.
ceremonial where when they get a new truck, they push it in by hand because
it's a big deal.
Exactly.
Which is why you remembered something that you saw in the Video Vault from 1991.
Yeah, they received a new truck. You thought, well, I mean, of course you're going to need new trucks every so often, but this truck was special. It was the first truck that had an enclosed cab. Before, your driver and whoever was in the passenger seat were inside. The other guys and gals would climb in the back, and that was open. I had the chief tell me that he can remember frozen jackets, when you're wet from fighting a fire, you're riding in the back of the truck, their coats would freeze. Another gentleman told me that with the center engine that they had, you would lean close as you could to that center to try to get some heat, so it was not comfortable. So
I mean, and up until 1991, that's what floors me when you hear that story, is that up until 1991, they were still driving an open cab fire truck.
Yeah, so you'll hear them in the story. They were very fond of this truck, even though
because everybody got to sit inside.
At least on this truck, and then eventually they were able to phase all the old trucks out and get cabs for everyone.
So let's see the new fire truck that arrived in 1991 from our Video Vault.
It's not that Topeka's older fire trucks are outdated. They're still being used in full force at each of the city's 10 fire stations. But fire officials say Topeka's new E1 4-passenger enclosed cabs are just a step above the rest.
At least here they're going to be inside, being warm, out of the weather. I just think it's the greatest thing that we've ever had.
Pat Weaver is one drivers of the new engines and says another plus to the updated cab is having the water controls on top of the truck as opposed to the standard ground level location.
Safety-wise and visibility-wise, because they're going to be able to see what's going on, where everybody's at, the oncoming traffic, and everything. As it was before, I had about 12 inches of running board to stand on and hope that nobody swept me off the side of the truck.
With the addition of the new 4-passenger enclosed cab, this 1972 model will be put on reserve. And according to the firefighters at this station, this older model won't be missed.
They're pretty excited. Anytime you get a new piece of equipment, you're excited. So I'm sure if you ask them, they'll tell you that. They've been waiting for a while for one.
The two E1 engines are home at stations number 3 and number 8 in Topeka. And according to fire officials today, the new cabs are fully equipped and ready for action. Susan Navarrete, 13 News at 10.
I was just saying, but Doug, we saw some of the older stuff, and those were, but you said no, they walked in the back, and so it was all open, not fully enclosed.
And so I suppose you had some protection over your head, but when it's raining, when it's snowing, when you're driving, if the stuff swirls around it, I'm sure it found them.
It probably wasn't fun. Now, part of the thing is this kind of led to a situation where we had some talks. I'm assuming. I wasn't there in 91. I was still in high school, but you weren't here yet either. You were in college. So
grade school.
It's just, hey, no, you're older than me. Anyhow, that led to discussions on, gosh, let's go right along with the fire department. Let's take a closer look at your equipment and why these new trucks were so important. And so it was very interesting timing, I must say, as far as when they were there and the kind of call that they got to go on. And we're going to show you a little bit about that and let you know kind of what the fleet was like. That kind of they said here about how this was a big deal because they had a lot of aging equipment. Well, yeah. And we're going to find that out.
They broke the series up into 3 or 4 pieces. And I think the first one's kind of just an introductory portion to the firefighters and what they do. And then we got into equipment and stress. And so we'll see those. I believe Ken Evans put this together.
All right. You're going to see that when we come back to our WIBW Video Vault presented by Ace Plumbing, Heating and Air and Appliance in 1 minute. Welcome back into the WIBW Video Vault on a Throwback Thursday presented by Ace Plumbing, Heating and Air and Appliance. And we are hanging out with the Topeka Fire Department today in the Video Vault, all because they had their new fire truck arrive and showed it off a little bit last week, which had you remembering some stories that you had seen, you said, from 1991.
1991 was the one we just saw put together by Susan Navarrete. Thinking back, I believe 1989, we did a series. Ken Evans did all over.
Oh, this is from earlier then.
This is actually from earlier.
Okay, I thought it was like kind of all around the same time.
It was from a couple years before when they thought it'd be kind of fun to go around and see what some of the issues they faced, some of the dangers, that sort of thing. So they spent the night with them. They went on calls with them. They did a lot of fun stuff.
So this kind of sets up why we saw that truck arrive a few years later.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Well, the first one is kind of the first story that you said started it all, and it gets a little bit of a look at the life of the firefighters.
That's right.
And I think, is this the one where it shows kind of what happens to one of the trucks on the call?
I believe that's one of the later ones.
Okay.
We'll see. I think
we'll see.
Some of the video is shared throughout.
I'm just going to tell you that I was like, whoa, when I first saw it. So here you go. The first piece in a series with the Topeka Fire Department that we did in 1989.
You see me looking up.
Our first few hours at the firehouse are surprisingly relaxing. With no alarms, the firefighters do what many of us would do: read the paper, talk basketball.
If there's anything you hear about Sizzlers losing, they must not have played.
But the quiet can change in an instant.
You just kind of can't wake up and leisurely take your time and get ready to go to work. I mean, bam, you've got to go. The alarm sounds, you got to go now.
And sometimes getting to the fire can be just as hazardous as fighting the blaze itself. They face plenty of danger at the scene of a fire from smoke and flame, but moving at much higher speeds than most of us, they also face danger in traffic, especially when other drivers don't get out of the way.
We're crawling right up on their bumper, and it's kind of irritating, not only to say that, it's unsafe. And then when they do decide to move, I mean, it's rash, you know, so you got to hang back. I mean, you can tell those people right away, and you just kind of stay back and let the air horns do their job if they can.
The driver of this truck took more than a minute to finally react, and the driver of this car never did, narrowly missing the wreck of his life. This run was only a car fire, but firefighters are careful not to let their guard down, even on what seems to be a minor run, because minor turns major in a flash.
Fire last Friday night. They pulled into the alley and there was couple garages on fire, and they thought they could get it off the tank, and by the time the other companies got in there, the fire mushroomed on them, just literally took off.
And this is the result. Station 4's engine out of commission with melted lights, a buckled windshield, and burnt paint. And they also point to last year's Meadow Gold fire as a lesson in the routine turning into serious. When firefighters arrived, they only had smoke from a roof, but soon after, they had the year's largest fire in Topeka. When it was over, the only parts of this building left were the walls. Tomorrow night, I'll show you the flip side, when the routine stays routine, and how the firefighter deals with boredom. Ken Evans, 13 News at 10.
Yeah, I was remembering correctly.
That's right.
You know?
You'll see that, and there's a little bit more on the scorching of the truck, and I think probably the last feature that we'll show.
Yes. So it just got hot and it melted the lens on that truck. So that is that one. If you saw in there, that was Chief Dennis Phillips. So some might say that was the OG Chief Phillips, because you're like, wait a minute, didn't he just retire? That was his son Randy, who retired at the end of last year as chief. So the OG Chief Phillips, before he was chief even. So yeah.
Oh yeah. See, for years I have run into him around town.
And we're smiling because Dennis Phillips was very supportive. We did MDA Telethon for many years, and he was very supportive of that effort and would always bring the truck out on Telethon Day.
Go up in the bucket,
yes,
so
I've been up on the very tall truck. Yeah. So we continued this series, and this is where they talked a little bit about the stress that the firefighters face.
The boredom and the stress, which, as you'll see,
it's like you go from one to the other within seconds.
But they find a way. They're never bored because they're always training or doing physical activities, but it kind of showed the two different sides.
Okay, you enjoyed that one. Again, these are reports from Ken Evans in 1989-ish.
"24-hour readiness has always been their trademark. The danger is what they train for. The excitement is what they live for."
You know, you kind of grow up thinking, oh, fireman, that's kind of cool, you know, big trucks and stuff. And it is cool. I love it.
Firefighters different than normal people?
Oh, most people think so, because you always hear the same when you go to the buildings, you know, and they're coming out of them, they'll say, well, look at those stupid people running in there and we're running out.
They joke about it, but their lives really aren't normal.
Be ready to save somebody's life if necessary, or whatever the call might be. I mean, you just kind of can't wake up and leisurely take your time and get ready to go to work. I mean, bam, you've got to go. The alarm sounds, you got to go now.
While the hot time can be a rush, it can also create a byproduct called stress. But they find ways to blow off steam.
There's a lot of us at this station that works out. We have an air dyno and we've got some weights here, and 4 o'clock rolls around and we work out together, ride a bike.
Kenny here, he reads a lot. There you go. Get him on. Thank you.
And the firehouse is famous for practical jokes.
And I've heard about all these pranks that they pull, but I've been lucky so far. I hadn't had any yet.
Your time.
I probably shouldn't be saying that.
That just might change. They're all afraid.
But I'm ready.
Looks like an easy job, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, it's not, I mean, it's not like that. We do have things we have to do every day. You know, we drill every day.
With a 4-man carry, if we was going to take the 35-foot extension.
Every day they use whatever downtime there is to drill, to stay sharp. Whether it's drilling on streets.
You can get everything off of
6th Street.
Off of 10th Street. You go in Highland Court, you can get.
Or equipment.
14-foot pole ladder and then the 5-foot step ladder.
Tonight at 10, we'll focus on that equipment, some of it more than 30 years old. Firefighters say it's overdue for retirement. Ken Evans, 13 News.
So don't admit that you haven't been the victim of practical jokes yet. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
I imagine that more followed.
Yeah, and they have a lot of fun around there because, as I said, that's the way they get rid of the stress, I believe.
Yeah, they have those 24-hour shifts,
yeah.
and so you're living with people 24 hours a day for several days in a row.
24 hours straight, depending on the call and in the hot, in the cold, and then they may have some downtime.
You never know.
So yeah,
know.
You got to be ready all the time.
So the old equipment, as you said, some of the melted little light on there on the truck and everything else kind of comes into being because just like everything, of course, you always have to have something on the street because what are you going to do? Throw it in the back of someone's, SUV? You can't exactly relocate the fire hoses quite that easily. So you have the trucks and then you have the backups to those trucks and, so yeah, they're backups. They don't need to be the, latest and greatest, but they still need to be roadworthy and everything else. And you want to make sure that somebody's going to get to the fire call when it happens. And so that is true, especially in the fire service. They've got their backup trucks and their trucks that are in service.
Yeah, I think this story kind of demonstrates how the fire department worked with the city and the officials in maybe kind of helping educate them on, because I told you earlier, they said there's a huge wait for trucks nowadays. Probably was that way back then, so I think they kind of came to an agreement and the city stepped up and I think continue to help them improve their fleet because, when they have a good fleet, it helps all of us.
All right, so here was what the status was in 1989 with Topeka Fire Department's fleet.
Tuesday, November 21st, Stations 9 and 3 respond to a small fire at a construction company. We go along.
1023.
9 engine has a problem. Because of a stuck valve, water goes pouring out the bottom of the tank instead of through the hoses. Luckily, the fire is a minor one. They have time to fix the problem and put the fire out. But firefighters worry their old equipment will someday backfire on them at a major fire.
It's getting critical, our equipment's getting old. We have a lot of trucks that were bought back in the early 70s. Some of the frontline equipment is bought in the 60s,
Age, of course, isn't the only problem. It's also how hard a vehicle is driven.
Normal car, when you get in your car and you start it up, you let it warm up, and then you go, you don't just start and go. But when alarm comes in, these trucks are started, and right out the door they go.
Right out the door they go, most of the time. But here at Station 3, the snorkel truck has a brake problem, low air pressure. You can tell it on the gauge because this gauge at this point should read 120 pounds per square inch to be safe. Right now, it reads below 10 pounds, and that means delay.
It'll take me anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds to let the air build back up so that I will have brakes once I leave the station. Otherwise, I can pull out the door and there'll be no brakes at all. I'll just go across the street to the curb, In a way, it's kind of a minor problem because the truck still runs. You might think that unless you were choking or your daughter or your son was choking, and 15 or 30 seconds is a long time.
And they say it's not the shop's fault. The shop is swamped. Even the newest truck isn't immune to spending time here.
fire mushroomed on them, just literally took off. From what I understand, there was paint thinners and stuff in the garages, and it took off, and the heat radiated and burnt the side of the truck, and which will have to be fixed. So that means the truck will be down probably for a week to 2 weeks, you know, so that means we're using one of the extra pieces of equipment.
And if the frontline trucks look old, the extras look like they belong in a museum.
One on the back, every time a truck company, any one of the 6 truck companies in town is out of service, you know, their truck needs to come in for repairs, that's the one they're going to get.
And that one's 35 years old.
35 years old.
City Hall has promised the firefighters 5 new trucks this year or next. But City Council is watching the budget like a hawk. Firefighters say what they really need is a plan, something the City Council and the mayor haven't provided yet. While the equipment gets old, the friendships here do not. Tomorrow night at 6, the Firehouse Family.
So that was a little bit about what the fleet situation was back then, which got me wondering. So what did they say? 35 years old was their backup truck?
Yeah, that looked like a 50.
I mean, it
I used to know all
older,
my
right?
Fords, 54 maybe, I think, Ford, but whatever it was a cool truck. I'd like to have it now, but yeah, when that was your backup.
Yeah, and you know, it takes about 30 seconds for the air pressure to build so you have brakes. Exactly. If it's your house that's burning down or your loved one that's having the emergency and you're waiting for them to arrive, that 30 seconds feels like 30 minutes. You know, you hear it all the time. It seems like it felt like it took forever for emergency crews to respond, and then when you check the log, it really wasn't. But when you're in that rush and you need them there now, yeah, it feels very old. So I was wondering, well, if that was the situation then, because, you know, these discussions, everything old's new again, right? You know, the watching the budget, is there enough budget for things? That seems like it's a never-ending issue. We hear the same discussions over and over and over. We have this need. Where's the money for the need? How do we get the money? So I wanted to figure out what our fire department situation was in. So I reached out to them this morning. I said, I know it's short notice, but we've got the story that we found, and we'd love to know what the status is now. So our city of Topeka has 18 frontline trucks and 5 reserve trucks. So exactly what you were seeing there. They had a backup truck that was like 35 years old, so that if one of them was down, they had something else to drive, and that's how old it was. So the 18 frontline trucks include the 12 engine companies, 2 aerial platforms, 4 truck companies, and of the 5 reserve trucks, 3 are engines to our truck companies. So the oldest frontline truck is a 2011, so that's not bad. That's only, you know, 14 years old, 15 years old by now, because it's 2026. Exactly. And then the oldest reserve truck that they still use is a 2001, so 24, 25 years old at this point. We're early in 2026, so not quite 25 years old probably on the oldest reserve truck. So in much better shape than they were in 1989.
Yeah, it sounds like, you know, back then they were working with the officials, and, you know, they agreed it was an important investment. You got to have the trucks if you're going to keep people safe.
And again, like you said, there's staff that's really keeping an eye on them 24/7 and doing that constant update and maintenance, so that they're sure that not only are they safe when they go out in those trucks every day, but that they're safe so that they can help keep us safe. So,
and they look good. They're always out there scrubbing the trucks when I go by, and my news car is filthy out there. I shouldn't admit that, but you got to get out there and get it cleaned up, because, yeah, not only do they take care of the trucks.
I don't think they would wash your car for you if you pulled it and be like, hey!
It's incentive for me to get out there and get mine taken care of. If they can wash those giant trucks, I can wash a little SUV. So.
Exactly. There you go. So that was kind of a fun way to help salute our Topeka firefighters and get a look back at what they have done over the years.
Saw folks that we've have known for years in those pieces. So that was cool.
Okay. Hope you enjoyed this trip as well. Remember, if you have anything that you remember from years past and you wonder, I wonder if they've got video of that, or you remember a cool story, always drop a comments once we get this posted later on. Keep watching all of the episodes. If you're on your Roku, the WIBW app on Roku, you're watching the live stream right now. If you go, there's a subheading under WIBW Plus for Video Vault. All of these segments are there, and you can see how we put together Ninja Turtles and the Bill of Rights a couple weeks ago.
Put together Ninja Turtles.
Move them together. Glad to have you along with us in the Video Vault, proudly presented by Ace Plumbing, Heating and Air and Appliance. We'll see you back here next week.